Hi, I'm Marc Buckley, ecological economist, regenerative futurist, and solar punk with a passion for reimagining the current systems of our world into regenerative, transformative ones that solve human suffering and our global grand challenges at their core. The reality is, never before in human history have we transformed from one era or epoch to another without innovation. Now, we are entering a transformative innovation supercycle with the convergence of quantum computing, a new human-machine interface powered by generative AI, as well as AI-enhanced genetics, biotech, robotics, and wearables, and this at a speed we have never seen before. For 3.8 billion years, quantum mechanical systems and other forms of sentience have existed in this natural world, in fungi and mycelium, in plants, bees, and animals, throughout scientific history, long before humans even appeared on Earth. Although much attention is given to the uncertainties and debates of quantum computing and AI, it is crucial that we do not overlook the importance of Earth's biodiversity and the valuable lessons we can learn from its systems. In biology, as in life and all living systems, 1 + 1 never ever equals 2. The real question I'd like to ask you is, what does a world that works for everyone look like to you? This question has been circulating for over 70 years, and it's the one we need to tackle today. Let's embark on this transformative journey together. Now, here is the real Marc Buckley to continue this enlightening conversation with you.
What does a world that works for everyone look like for you? I want you to ponder that question as I speak to you today. But in reality, my talk is about something else, but it will tie very closely to that big question. Quantum leap to regenerative futures. That AI video, that deep fake that you just saw, had a lot of questions and answers in it for you, so I hope you paid attention, because we're going to go like the Fast and Furious. This is episode 100, and we're going to go on hyperspeed so I can show you how to make that quantum leap to those regenerative futures, evolving beyond the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm sorry, Susanna, but I think it shouldn't be called Games for Change, but it should be called Games for Transformation. And the reason is change versus transformation is one that is projects to infrastructure, incremental versus exponential, linear versus systemic. There's a difference in change and transformation. And what we're talking about here today is world building, civilization framework models, world building to change and transform our world so that we can never go back into that cocoon and back to the caterpillar. When you change from a frog, a little toad, you evolve or you change to this frog, right? But as a caterpillar, you turn into a butterfly, and you can never go back into the chrysalis. And so I want you to actually understand what I mean when I say transformation. There is a difference between that change and transformation, and it needs to be ingrained in your games and in the way you think about what you're bringing to people if you want to make change. If you only want it to be short-term or until you get the next funding or until you get the next version. But if you really want it to change the world and transform it, to never go back to the shitty way it has been, then you need that transformation. Did you know that there are 6 major transformations needed in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals? We only talk about one of those 6 transformations, and it's the last one. Number 6 is the digital revolution, the digital transformation. But did you know that for 17 years before the Sustainable Development Goals, we've needed to make 6 major transformations in order to go from the Anthropocene to the Symbiosis, to a new era or epoch. Never before in human history have we transformed from one age or epoch to another without innovation, without technology. But number 1 is education, gender equality. Number 2, we've talked about a lot here, well-being, that transformation of well-being and health. Just keep that in mind. And all 6 of these major transformations are tied to the SDGs. Dina talked about it in her talk a little bit and why I wrote the Sustainable Development Goal Manifesto. It is virtually impossible to work on one SDG and not touch on all the other 17. But I also want you to know we have 4 years and 7 months left to achieve the SDGs, and we haven't even begun to understand who and what they are for. And so that's why we need that quantum leap. That's why we need that transformation to see our world change. And that's why we ask this question. I've asked this question to over 3,800 people on this earth up until this day for 9 years, and I'm still asking them, and I asked them on my podcast, but I asked them on video. I recorded video of them answering this question. 3,800 plus people. These people have been authors, scientists, people from the United Nations, very smart, intelligent people with millions and millions of views, TED Talks, books, well respected. And guess what? Only 7 out of those 3,800 plus people answered the question, what does a world that works for everyone look like for you, in a similar way, close to the correct answer. The rest of the people stuttered and fumbled and cried and coughed and said, can I come back later? And the reason I recorded the video is because I wanted to capture, if they came back after weeks and months and years, if the answer was the same or if it was different. And every time it was different. I thought, okay, I'm going to do about 25, maybe 50, maybe 100 of these videos, and then I'm going to have this big aha moment. I'm going to have an overnight viral success, and we're going to all have this awe-inspiring moment, and we're going to move forward with the answer, and we'll say, oh, that's it, we're great, this is super, we all know, and the world's problems will be solved. After I went through about 20 of them, I said, oh shit, we're in big trouble. 3,800 plus people, besides 7, didn't know the answer. And they were highly intelligent people. Since that time, Dina and I have done the Resonance Project with over 1.8 billion people, and we've asked over 500 million people a similar question. And then I thought, everybody's talking about AI, so let's go ask ChatGPT. I asked it, and it immediately got the right answer. And I said, wow, that's amazing. And then I hit the button again, because my favorite button is that regenerate green button, and what we're talking about here. And it was the same answer. So I hit it 15 more times, and it was the same answer. I said, shit, I've broken the internet. Something's wrong. So I hit it 120 times, and guess what? Every time it was the same answer. It didn't give me a different answer. So I asked my friends in Thailand and Brazil, in Italy, in Germany, in Iceland. Every time they got the exact same answer in their own language when they did it. Did we domesticate technology, or did it domesticate us? And more importantly, how in the hell did ChatGPT know the answer, but 3,800 highly intelligent authors, scientists, people from the UN, the World Economic Forum, not know that answer? So I asked it, how do you know the answer, and why do these 3,800 people, 800 people not know the answer? And it came back and it told me, because this comes from your books and your learnings and your writings and your speaking. And we've been trained on this information. So why in the hell did 3,800 highly intelligent authors, speakers, scientists, and people who are leading our world not have that answer? Oops. That is, in the video I showed you, is a 70-plus-year-old question. This question was asked by our Buckminster Fuller. He lived a long, beautiful life. He was an architect, a polymath, a Renaissance man. And he designed this beautiful geodesic dome, but he wrote the book, The Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth, and many other wonderful books. And he wrote this book in 1969, The Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth. And if you hold it on its side, it's no thicker than this clicker. Wouldn't you think it needed to be biblical in volumes or an encyclopedia book of the Operating Manual of Spaceship Earth and not a toilet read? The Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth's a toilet read. You can do it in one sitting unless you're constipated. He built this geodesic dome. This is the American Pavilion at the World Expo or the World's Fair in 1967. This geodesic dome, if you look up on the right side here, has a track running through it. The tram actually ran through this building and come out the other side. And inside this geodesic dome, there's another building. And they played something called the World Game. Did you hear me? The World Game. With people from all over the world, from different countries, trying to answer the question, what does a world that works for everyone look like for you? And guess what? In the American Pavilion and many other times when he played this game around the world, they came up with the answer to that question. And they distributed it in books and knowledge and videos and talks. And we still didn't get that information, but ChatGPT did. Did you learn about that in school? Did you read these books? Did you hear about this American Pavilion? This year, the World's Fair is in Japan. And they talk about the future of how we live on Earth, how we develop life on Earth, and what the new innovations are. They had in that building, in this geodesic dome, they had a map, a Dymaxium map of the world on the floor, and that's where they played that game. And that map is different than any map you would ever see. Now, this book is this is the inside cover of that book, Operating Manuals for Spaceship Earth. Not only was up here that I blew up in the left corner of that book, his why or purpose for existing, Buckminster Fuller's why or purpose for existing, but it was the exact answer that everyone came up with when they were playing this game. To make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time through spontaneous cooperation without the ecological offense or disadvantage of anyone. 1960-something, maybe even earlier, because he's a lot older, over 70-plus years ago, he knew his why, and his why wasn't to be a billionaire architect or the richest man in the world. It was for all humanity, to make the world work for 100% of humanity. Wow, that is unbelievable. And he was playing the world game back then. And so as you create the games and develop those games, I would like you to have that same standard and that quantum leap. How can I develop games that transform the world to something better, to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, to move towards regeneration? Now, we've talked a lot about the Sustainable Development Goals, and we only have 4 years and 7 months left, but I think majority of people on Earth, close to 8 billion people, don't know what they are. So I want to tell you what they are. They're an ecological economy, and And in that 15-year period of time from 2015 to 2030, they're a $94 trillion US dollar economy. $94 trillion US dollar economy. That's a lot of money. Some people are struggling to figure out how much $1 million is, let alone 94 trillion. And it's the low carbon scenario. That means we use circular economy, sustainable construction, cradle to cradle, LEEDs, BREEAM, German Green Building Council, passive building, better materials, more renewables. That's what sustainable development means. It's the lived environment, it's the built environment, it's how we live. So the SDGs are how we live, that evolution to go from regular development to a little bit better. It's not perfect, it's just a little bit better for everybody on Earth. We presented the SDGs wrong and very linear and lateral. Most people say, oh, I like number 1, it's my favorite color, that's the one I'm working on. But as I said, it's virtually impossible to work on one SDG and not touch on all the others. They're all tied together as a system. And that's why I wrote the Sustainable Development Goal Manifesto, so that people could get a vision of what the world would look and feel like if we achieve all the goals. This is the way we should really look at the Sustainable Development Goals, as a pie, a wedding cake, a chart, a graph, this not quite pyramid, because the biosphere is where we get all the materials and resources for our food, for our computers, for our technologies, our cars. Everything that we live and build and eat comes from that biosphere. And then it feeds the society, which then feeds our economy, which then does this partnership for the goals, and they're all tied to food. And as you can see, I have my own SDG pin with the earth in the middle, with climate action protecting that biosphere. It's the action we take. And guess what? If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the basic physiological needs of human beings, the bottom 2 layers are for us. Breathing, food, water, homeostasis, excretion, sex, security of body, security of employment, security of housing. These are our physiological needs. So the SDGs are not a Klaus Schwab conspiracy theory. They're not bubblegum colors that we get to chew on for a couple years. They're ways that we evolve in how we live in the built environment. Roads, schools, highways, residential, commercial, office buildings, infrastructure. And let me just tell you something, and this deals with all of you. Today in our world, there's a category of students. They're called early learners. Kindergarten, or preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade. Those 5 grades, the early learners just coming into the system, the school system. Those 5 grades, with 8+ billion people, the early learners today, we would need to build 66,000 classrooms every single week. Every single week, 66,000, just to meet the needs and demands of those early learners to go to school, to start out their beginning. Today around the world, we don't even build 100 classrooms a month, let alone 66,000 every single week. That's development. That's sustainable development. That's the haves and the have-nots. And that's why we need these 6 major transformations in order to transform from one era or epoch to another. I want you to know that these numbers, 94 trillion, is not made up. This is the United Nations, says 90 trillion needed by 2030. This is The Guardian, says 90 trillion infrastructure overhaul. This is back in 2015, 2016. 6 trillion a year to 2015. And then here's the slide for regular development. In that 15-year period of time, we will spend $89 trillion regardless. So in the next 4 years and 7 months, we will spend 89 trillion US dollars on development, regular or not. And it's gone up because of the Ukraine war, the pandemic, the Brexit, and all other turmoils and tariffs in our world. That price has gone up. It's also gone up for the sustainable development goals or the low carbon scenario, but it's only gone up 5 trillion more, and it has a much better outcome. But guess what? We have more than enough money. This is COP26 in Glasgow. That was the 26th COP. This year is the 30th COP. The Conference of the Parties is the climate conference for the United Nations. It happens every single year unless there's a big war or pandemic or something that happens. And this is the first week on Thursday of that 2-week climate conference. Rishi Sunak and Mark Carney, who's the Prime Minister of Canada, Rishi Sunak was the Prime Minister of the UK, they committed 130 trillion US dollars to the heart of climate finance and the Sustainable Development Goals. But guess what? That was 4 years ago. We are at 148 trillion US dollars available today for sustainable development. But we don't have enough builders and projects that qualify to unlock that money because they're still trying to develop in the old way. Business as usual, high carbon scenario at the suffering and cost of the have-nots to benefit the haves. Dina did this experiment. I want to do it for you as well. Please close your eyes for just 30 seconds, and I want you to imagine your home. Think what it feels like. Think what it looks like. What emotions it evokes. And when you have this image of your home in your mind's eye, I want you to open your eyes. Go ahead and open your eyes. How many of you saw this image? Raise your hand. I've asked over 500 million people this up to date. Less than 0.00001% has raised their hand and said they imagine this as their home. I'm sorry, I love you guys, but that is a fucking big problem. It's a huge problem. Because we're all on this same planet. I don't know anybody who was dropped off on Spaceship Germany, Spaceship USA. We all crawled out of the primordial soup of this earth. We are star stuff. The same makeup in our bodies is under our feet. We crawled out of this earth, but we still don't see it as our home. There's many reasons why this occurs. We all decorate our home differently, but it is our only home. And if we can't come to an agreement of what a world that works for everyone looks like for you, how in the hell do you think we're going to make any quantum leaps? How do you think we're going to evolve and get anywhere where we need to be? We're not competing games after games or stories or systems with one another. That will only take us to a limit of growth at one point in time, and then it will crash. The moment we come together, collaborate and cooperate in symbiosis, we will have a world that works for everyone, that goes on indefinitely until maybe another asteroid or something other environmentally or climate-wise disrupts us. And that's why I say the quantum leap to regenerative futures, it's U squared, not Mark, not the UN, and definitely not Trump. It's you and me, okay? It's all of us. How do we make that quantum leap? I'm going to tell you how, and I'm going to get a little bit of help from Lucy.
Every cell knows and talks to every other cell. They exchange 1,000 bits of information between them per second. Cells group together, forming a giant web of communication, which in turn forms matter. Cells get together, take on one form, deform, reform. Makes no difference, it's all the same. Humans consider themselves unique, so they've rooted their whole theory of existence on their uniqueness. One is their unit of measure, but it's not. All social systems we put into place are a mere sketch. 1 + 1 = 2. That's all we've learned. But 1 + 1 has never equaled 2. There are, in fact, no numbers and no letters. We've codified our existence to bring it down to human size, to make it comprehensible. We've created a scale so that we can forget its unfathomable scale.
In living systems, in life, in all living systems, in biology, ecology, environment, in us, you and I, we're a living system. 1 + 1 never, ever, 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 ever has equaled 2. It's always a super exponential and verges on quantum tunneling. Some of you are probably saying, Mark, that's a word soup, that's a word salad. What the hell does that mean? In all living systems and their subsystems, 1 + 1 has never equaled 2. It's always a super exponential and verges on quantum tunneling. It's called symbiosis. It's that regenerative process of how life on Earth started 3.8 billion years ago. It's how we crawled out of that primordial soup and how life on Earth began. Symbiosis is an ecological phenomenon. It's the world's fastest and most advanced form of evolutionary innovation that the world has ever seen. Symbiosis is the fastest form of innovation the world has ever seen, and it will be faster than quantum, it'll be faster than AI, or anything else we'll ever see. Always. I just want to promise you that. That is a fact. Symbiosis as an evolutionary innovation, source of evolutionary innovation, that comes from Lynn Margulis. She wrote a book in Lake Como in Italy with 250 other scientists at a workshop, a symposium that lasted 2 weeks. And they came up and wrote everything at that symposium in this book, saying what Darwin meant, what we understand what Darwin meant with natural selection, survival of the fittest, severe competition, only the strong survive, always worked as in symbiosis, in cooperation and collaboration. That's how we can go in indefinitely as a species. It is the key to the fastest form of innovation the world has ever seen. And guess what? We're part of it. And then this is a book from Glenn Albrecht, Earth Emotions. He says we need to get out of this anthropocenic terminology about how bad humans are on the earth and how destructive we are on the planet, and come up with new words for a new world, how good we're doing. This symbiotic, symbiocene terminology. Just quickly, this is Lynn Margulis. She wrote The Symbiotic Planet and the Microcosmos. She was, let me say, Carl Sagan was her first husband. He talked about the cosmos, and she talked about the microcosmos, the world underneath our feet. I'm going to get a little help from the father of the quantum string theory. He's right here, and then I want to talk to you about quantum.
Because, like I said, it's trial and error. Almost all chemistry and biology is done by trial and error.
Mostly error.
How is penicillin discovered? We discover new penicillins the same way, by accident. So we're now talking about not by accident, but systematically creating fertilizer, creating new drugs, new therapies. Because that's how Mother Nature does it. Mother Nature does not do it by petri dishes. Mother Nature does it quantum mechanically.
Right. So let me get back to your earlier comment that Mother Nature is a quantum computer. Did you say that?
In that sense, yes. You go outside, you see photosynthesis taking place, you see energy being converted into useful chemicals, you see life, you see all sorts of chemical processes happening, none of which can be duplicated by an ordinary computer. That's where quantum computers can come in.
And all of it is happening like it's just another day under the sun.
That's right. So in other words, we actually have quantum computers. They're called leaves, plants, vegetation. All of them are quantum mechanical. Why did you eat breakfast this morning? It was a byproduct of quantum computers. Why do we have a green revolution? The green revolution was a quantum revolution. That's why we had fertilized crops. And that's why we have a food shortage today, because we're running out of fertilizer. That's why we need quantum computers to come in to fill the gap. A second green revolution is a byproduct of the quantum revolution.
Right.
Wow. And that would be one of the next eras that you're talking about.
Yeah.
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 Now let's
This is so true, but I want to tell you, we're asking each other the wrong questions. First of all, you might have heard that we're worried about AI becoming sentient. And Blake Lemoine worked for Google on Lambda AI, one of these fabulous AI models from Google. And he was adamant that it had gone sentient. And so he left Google in a debate because he was so adamant that it had gone sentient, and he disagreed with them, and so he left Google. He left an $880,000 job and a cushy job with vacation and benefits in the defense of technology. I want you to know, we have never asked the question, boy, I'm worried about that bumblebee being sentient and it's going to come and sting me on the ass because I'm stealing its honey, I'm fertilizing these crops with chemicals and ruining its pollination, and it's going to be pissed that I keep stealing its honey, so it's going to sting me on the ass. Because that bee, it's been sentient for 3.8 billion years, or as long as it's existed on this earth. Plants, species, fungi, mycelium, they have been sentient for 3.8 billion years, and we've never asked that question. We're asking the wrong questions. Now, when it comes to quantum, we're worried about quantum supremacy. The father of quantum string theory just told you the reason we developed quantum computers was part of the New Green Deal. We couldn't figure out how in the hell does that plant do photosynthesis, capture carbon, heal the soils, give us oxygen and food, and hundreds of thousands to possibly millions of other quantum mechanical things every second of the day. We're like, boom, how do we understand that? We need to develop a quantum computer to figure that out. We are quantum mechanical beings. You and I are the same as those bees and birds. We crawled out of that primordial soup, and we do millions to trillions of quantum mechanical processes every single day. If I told you that you could only breathe today, you would be dead in less than 20 minutes. It's virtually impossible because you do millions of other processes every second of the day, and you can't just do one. Life is complex. It's a symbiotic, regenerative process every single day. Sustainability is life, but I'm sorry, sustainability is not sustainable. We don't want to sustain a point in time. We're evolutionary beings that need to evolve along with our planet. We are not in the business of business. We are in the business of life to make sure that life goes on indefinitely. We're not here to create a new program or a new game. We're here to make sure that life goes on for 10 generations or more forever. There is only life, and it's a regenerative evolution. We are on a developmental evolution of how we live life. In a world that is changing in an exponential manner and evolving in an exponential manner every second of the day, if you and I only improve incrementally, we are falling behind exponentially.
We are being called to come together.
We're all being called.
We are being called
to come together. To come together, to connect.
to connect, and to regenerate.
Regenerate.
To connect and to regenerate.
This is a call to the citizens of this planet. What is regeneration?
What is regeneration?
Regeneration puts life
Life at the center of every act and every decision.
We've inherited an economic system that is extractive and degenerative.
Vital connections have been severed between human beings and nature.
This disconnection and degeneration has brought us to the brink of an unimaginable crisis.
Degeneration is stealing the future.
Regeneration is healing the future.
A regeneração é o único caminho a seguir.
The only path forward.
Regenerative means to create the conditions that are conducive to life to thrive and flourish amid ever-changing life conditions. Regeneration is not just agriculture. People think that when I talk about regenerative, they think I'm talking about regenerative agriculture. But it is regenerative economics, regenerative games, regenerative health, medicine, business models, regenerative economy, cities, organics. It is every single thing on this planet can be regenerative. It is the endless re-imperatives. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but it goes on endlessly. This is just a few of them. Regenerate, realize, reduce, reuse, restore, recycle. It is the endless re-imperatives, that process of regeneration. I'm an ecological economist. I studied with the second father of ecological economics, Herman Daly at the University of Maryland. These are some of his books. He was working with the World Bank when he left in an open letter from the New York Times saying capitalism, growth, and GDP are wrong. They're requiring some people or a lot of people to suffer in order for a few to have gains on our planet, the haves and the have-nots. And the reason these classical old economic models are in red is because they all compete and fight against each other. And you can't bundle them together in order to have success. But did you know that there's more than 32 ecological economic models? And I know you've heard of 5 of them already. Donut economics, circular economics, the Sustainable Development Goals are an ecological economic model. Regenerative economics, well-being economics, and there's many more, and there's more coming every day. The reason they're in green, they don't compete against each other. You can bundle one or all 32 together, and they only give each other redundancy and support for a successful model of abundance in our world. In regenerative development, just before the Sustainable Development Goals, there was the Millennium Development Goals. So it would make sense that after the Sustainable Development Goals, there will be other goals, right? The Regenerative Development Goals. But guess what? Everybody wants to see, show me the money. Today, not in 15 years, not in 20 years, today, there is $280 trillion US available now for the Regenerative Development Goals, for regenerative development to get our world in a better regenerative practice. And it's what we call the net positive balance scenario. It's not carbon neutral, but it has many, many more factors. So what is regenerative agriculture? That's what most people ask me. Oh, Mark's going to talk about regeneration. So I thought I'd tell you how much money is available for that. How many think it's more or less than regenerative development? More? It's more. $750 trillion US today. That's 30 trillion annually for regenerative development. You know how many health, medical, and problems for the environment that are caused through bad agriculture, through food? If we change that, just imagine the changes in health, well-being, and solving the SDGs, solving the regenerative development goals that would occur in our world. It would change our entire healthcare system. It would change our entire world, heal it, restore, rejuvenate, refresh the air. It's a huge ecological economy. It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the ones most responsive to change. It is evolution, and that is what I'm trying to tell you. We need to evolve into regenerative development. We need to evolve. If we stay stuck in a sustainable period of time, we're going to be left behind because, like I said, in a world that's evolving every second of the day in an exponential manner, if you only improve incrementally, you don't change and evolve with that planet that you crawled out of, you're going to be left behind exponentially. You will be dead. You will be miserable. So there's new dating method for hominids, Homo sapiens. We thought we've been around for 2.4 million years. Now we have studies says we've been around for 3.4 to 3.7 million years. There's been more than 13. Sorry, I only put up 11 here, but there's 2 more that added to this list. 13 hominids that have lived here before, and we're the only ones left. The rest have gone extinct and don't exist here anymore. I even threw myself up in here as a Homo neanderthalis. But there's this study. It's an ecological economics study by Nature and Elsevier. It's called the Handy Study. And it was done by NASA 3 times, 2014, 2012, and 2018. It asked, how many civilization frameworks have there been in our world before? Why did they collapse? When did they collapse? And what model, civilization framework model, were they running when they collapsed? The first study came back and said there's been more than 72 civilization framework models, but we think that there's only 32 core ones and the rest are branches and splinters, but there's 32 core civilization frameworks. Early antiquity, Mesopotamia's, Incas, Aztecs, Mayas, Greeks, Romans, on and on. And out of those 32, all but 5 collapsed because of ecological or environmental collapse, because of basic resources, breathing, food, water, climate, sanitation, those basic resources. And those other 5 collapsed because of disease, displacement, or disruption. But all 32 of them collapsed running the exact same civilization framework model, and that is a hierarchy model with one king, priest, ruler, or emperor at the top, and peasants, slaves, laborers, and farmers at the bottom. All of them were running the same civilization framework model. And that model we're still running today. All civilizations, everyone is running that same hierarchy or class system model. The upper class, the lower class, the middle class, the haves and the have-nots. But here's the key. All 32 that collapsed running that, and we're still running it today. Think about Dubai. Think about Qatar. Think about those places in the Middle East who are running these class systems. They don't call them peasants, slaves, and laborers and farmers holding up this class system. They call them construction workers, farmers, laborers, hospitality workers. But it's the same model because they come from another civilization, another culture, and on a visa to come in and work on that model. As I wrap up, I want you to think about this. None of those 32 civilizations that collapsed had indigenous people as peasants, slaves, laborers, and farmers building up that civilization. All those peasants, slaves, laborers, and farmers in those systems, they were all taken from somewhere else. Some other civilization, some other culture, and enslaved, and they did not have buy-in to the system. They did not have buy-in to the civilization framework. They knew they would never have ownership and get to live there and say, I built this up. Usually when they built it up, they were made to leave because there wasn't enough resources, or they didn't want those people around because they were taking food and other things there. Because it's a hierarchy, limit to growth model. And that model we're repeating today. And I just want you to know the model that works indefinitely is a regenerative development model. And I'm not going to show you that video because I'm way over time and I'm wrapping up. We need to get out of this ego model where man's at the top, not even woman's at the top, among all other species, to more ecological view where we're all in the center with all other species, but go one step further to this old seva word, this Sanskrit word, seva, regeneration, selfless service to all life on earth. Work together, cooperate, collaborate, have a regenerative model, because it's the journey we're on as an evolutionary species, one that is quantum mechanical and one that has that core of symbiosis in each and every one of us. So as you design the games, the worlds of tomorrow, the visuals, the VR, the AI, the quantum, the tools that you use, please think hard and long to not change, but to transform our world to the Symbiocene, to one that works for everyone not just for you, but a world that works for everyone. Thank you so much.